Are you thinking about becoming a professional musician? Well, stick around because I've got 10 very, very important tips for you so that you can meet your goals to become a professional musician. Hello and welcome to Tim Connolly Drums. Today is a very, very valuable top 10 list. If any of you are considering pursuing a career in the music industry, take heed of these top 10s because I have been involved in the music industry for over 35 years. My first gig technically was at the age of 14, professional, where I actually got paid, but really I don't consider my pro career beginning / developing until my 20s, and in some cases even after I finished music school, so that would have been my 30s. However, I have been involved in music all that time, whether it be professional gigs or fun gigs, you know, playing at school or whatever. I've been gigging a long time. I've been in many hundreds of bands. I played on hundreds of recordings. I've done thousands of gigs. So anyways, enough about me. You get the idea. Listen up. These top 10 tips are really going to help you. Okay, I want to start off by saying that yes, I'm counting down from 10 to 1, but all 10 of them are extremely valuable. So even though 1 technically is the most important, number 10 is equally as important, but just in a different way. So number 10 is always try to be an active member of the band, even if you're a hired gun. So don't be a guy that just sits back. When asked for input, give your input. Now, you got to be careful because musicians' egos are very fragile in a lot of cases. So if you tell the guitar player he sucks and you're at a hired gig and you're the guy that just came in to play 1 or 2 gigs, you're probably going to get fired right away. So use your common sense, but be an active part of the band, regardless of what you're doing. Even if it's a studio thing, maybe throw in some of your ideas as to what you think or how you think the groove should go if you're in a recording session. You know, if you're given a sheet of music, you follow what the producer says. He's the boss. But if the producer says to you, hey, you know, play me a few different feels for this tune, and don't be afraid to give your input. Okay, number 9 on this top 10 list is exercise. Stay healthy and practice. So let's deal with exercise. It's very important that you keep yourself in good physical shape while you're on the road if you're a touring musician. If you're not a touring musician, you want to make sure that you're not sick when you show up to the gig on Friday night or Saturday night, especially if you got to drive somewhere. So keep yourself healthy. During the week, when you're not gigging, practice. If you're on a cruise ship, if you're on tour, when you're not working and playing, physically playing with the band, rehearsing, gigging, etc., you should be getting some practice time in to keep your chops up. And the third thing is always being healthy. Eat good meals. Stay fit and healthy. Don't do anything that's going to jeopardize your ability to play your instrument well. Number 8, learn to focus on the groove and supporting your fellow musicians. So what that means is don't put your ego in front of the music, the song. If the song is Sugar Pie Honey Bunch and it's just a simple got to, that's what you play. Don't try and throw in some Thomas Lang double bass crazy licks that just don't fit the song. The second part of my tip is be supportive to your musicians, meaning that as a drummer, generally speaking, not always, but generally speaking, you're backing up a singer. So in the case of someone singing a song, you want to make sure that you're playing at the right tempo, you're not playing crazy licks over top of them when they're singing, and you're not interfering with what they're trying to do. So you're cooperating with the singer and all the other musicians. The most hired musicians are the guys that support the band, support their other musicians, supporting them musically. In some cases, you might even have to support them financially. That was a joke. Support your band members musically. Okay, number 7 on our continuing list is learn to take and accept criticism, especially from guys that really know what they're talking about. So if you're on a session and the producer says, do this, do this, do this, I don't like what you did before, rather than arguing with him because he's the boss, it's easier to just accept what he's saying and move on. Now, there's going to be guys that are going to argue with me on this, but I'm telling you right now, to earn a reputation in the business, if you're considering a career in music, producers talk. Don't hire that guy, he's difficult, he doesn't know how to take instructions. There's your job gone. So, when the producer tells you to do something, just do it. That's the easiest way to get through it. Now, obviously, if you wrote the song and you're in a band where you're really, really engaged in the music, then that's a little bit different. He's going to accept a little bit of argument from you. However, if you're not, if you're a hired gun, you're Kenny Aronoff coming in, and you're just playing on somebody else's song, just do what you're told. The other thing is, take and accept criticism from your drum teacher. That's obvious. You should always take and accept criticism from your drum teacher. His job is to make you better. Now, I've got years and years and years and thousands of students' experience teaching. And I know that my main goal has always been to make my students better. So when I tell them they're doing something wrong, their hand technique is off, their bass drum technique is off, whatever it may be, it's to make them better, it's not to hurt. A lot of times people take criticism as being something that's hurtful. In some cases it can be. But if, in a music situation, if the guitar player says, well, you know, I don't really like what you're doing there, you can discuss it with them, but don't get angry and pissed off and that's it, I quit, and all that kind of garbage. So many band fights and drama. Don't be a drama queen in the rehearsal room. Number 6 on our list is have good and reliable gear. Nothing worse than showing up to a session and your drums look like they're from 1960, the heads are all beat up, the cymbals are broken and sound like garbage. Make sure that anything you do on a professional level, if you're getting paid, make sure you show up and your drums are in good shape, your cymbals, your hardware, everything is working. Another thing is test all your gear out before you go on the gig so that you don't have accidents. The bass drum head, it's a little bit thin. Geez, maybe I should change it. Nah, I'm not going to change it. Then you get to the gig, you put your beater through the bass drum head, halfway through the gig, and now you're screwed. Make sure your gear is always in good shape and reliable. Very, very important tip. Now, second to that, not all musicians have a lot of money. They can't go out and buy the DW Collector's Series $7,000 drum kit. That's not what I'm talking about when I say make sure you have good gear. You could have a Yamaha Stage Custom $1,200 kit. As long as the heads are good, the shells are good, you keep it clean, it's presentable, nobody except for you is really going to know the difference that it's even a cheap kit, to be totally honest. Now, number 5. I want to discuss this one a little bit because what happened was, number 5 is being in the scene, being in the music scene, making sure that you're in the scene. Now, I put a post on Facebook writing out these exact tips. I only wrote out the tip itself, I didn't write an explanation, but it was well received because a lot of the things that I'm talking about here today are to help people and to make people grow and become better. And if you're considering a career in this line of work, it's not easy. So these tips are designed to help you. I forgot about being in the scene. And there was a gentleman who I'm going to mention now, Zane Mendonca. I probably butchered your last name, Zane. I'm really, really sorry. I'm sorry. My apologies. But Zane pointed out about the scene. And he's 100% correct. Be in the scene. So if you're a musician in Detroit, go downtown, check out the local scene. Be around musicians. Go to the clubs. Check out other musicians, see what they're doing, see what songs they're playing, see what instruments they're using. Go and hang out in the scene and try to get involved. Go to those bars where they have events where you can actually get up on stage and play and show people what you can do. Lots of people get gigs from those kinds of things, okay? So being on the scene, vitally, vitally important. I can remember for myself when I was young and in my 20s, being on the scene in Toronto on Queen Street got me a ton of gigs, and it also got me some good gigs opening for decent bands. So being on the scene, very, very important. Thanks, Zane. Number 4 on our list is another very important one for your health. Stay sober and clean. I couldn't tell you how many times I have been in bands where the singer would get hammered, end up falling off the stage in the 3rd set, injuring himself, embarrassing the band, humiliating us, we never get hired again, etc., etc. So if you're at the gig, if you're at rehearsal, if you're at a session, or if you're representing your band in any way, shape, or form, like a live interview or a signing, you're in a record store and you're signing your CDs or your downloads or whatever, be sober. How you present yourself to your audience is very, very important as a professional. Plus, you want to be able to play the songs properly without mistakes, especially being a drummer. I have done so many gigs where I had to play with a click. Timing is everything. If I was drunk, I would not have been able to play any of those songs the way that I wanted to play, which was to the highest level musically and being supportive to my bandmates. So stay away from drugs, stay away from hard drugs, stay away from booze. Now, if you're going to have a couple beers at a session or at a gig, no big deal. Just don't get drunk and don't get high. Stay clean. Number 3, another really important one. I mean, like I said, I'm doing them 1 to 10. 10 is still important, but now we're getting into the ones that are going to make or break whether you're going to make it as a pro. So number 3 is be reliable. Always show up on time, prepared, and ready to do your thing. Very, very important that you're not showing up to gigs late. And I'll give you an example. If you play any gigs in a casino, which I've done hundreds, there's a window of opportunity for the band to load in. So let's say the window is 6 to 6:35 p.m., let's just say. Well, you've got to be there in that window. You show up at 6:36, you're not getting in. And guess what? You've just screwed up your entire night, not just for you, but for your band, for your audience, for the club. It's a nightmare. And then this casino talks to another casino, talks to this venue, talks to that venue. The next thing you know, you're not getting any gigs anywhere. So you may not think it's a big deal, I showed up a few minutes late. But if you're playing a gig with strict guidelines as to when you show up, you better show up on time. Now, it's not going to be as strict if you're just a local bar band and you show up a little bit late. As long as you're fast setting up, no big deal. But at a professional level, show up on time, be prepared. Always have, if you're reading charts, make sure you have all your charts. If you're going to be doing any rehearsing or prep work prior to the actual performance, make sure that you have your notes and you're ready to go. I've done tons of gigs where I got a call, Tim, can you just come and fill in? I don't even know what I'm playing. I show up, they gave me the set list, and we quickly go over the tunes. Now, if I hadn't showed up early and being prepared with a pen and paper and ready to make notes, then I would have been lost in that gig. So take my advice, thousands of gigs. Be prepared for all of your gigs and rehearsals. Okay, now we only have 2 left. So number 2 is another very, very important one. Play for the music, not for your ego. Now what that means is you want to play to the song, and what the song brings to the audience, and you want to think about the band sound, not you individually, and how fancy you can play and how you can metrically modulate, and you can play all these polyrhythms and stuff like that. Now, if you're playing in Tool, that's different. You're playing in Rush, that's different. You're definitely going to want to play a lot more. But if you're playing in the Rolling Stones tribute band, you want to be playing simple Charlie type beats. Solid time, and just laying it down. So you're not playing to your ego. Just because you watched the Thomas Lang video earlier in the day and you got to see him playing some crazy stuff, and all of a sudden you're at the gig and you decide you're going to try some of that Thomas Lang stuff, that's the fastest way to the door. You're going to get fired. So try and throw your ego out the door, play to the music. The greatest song drummers are Don Henley from the Eagles, Ringo, of course, the Beatles, Charlie Watts, as I mentioned, the Rolling Stones. These are really great song drummers. Another one is Bernard Purdie, another fantastic groove player as well. Focus on the groove, focus on the music. That is the most important thing. All right, I've reached number one. This is very exciting. Number one is, drum roll please, get yourself educated and learn many styles of music. This is going to get you the most work. And when I say, let's deal with get yourself educated first, when I say that, I'm not necessarily talking about music school. Even though I do highly recommend music school, I think it's an amazing thing. I went to music school and it's amazing. And you will learn so much, and they do nothing but help you and set you up for what you want to do in the music business. But if you're not going to go to music school, educate yourself means get yourself a drum teacher, get yourself a piano teacher, get yourself someone that's going to help you and educate you in music. A lot of drummers lack music skills because they don't seek out a teacher that teaches them about music and not just drums. When I'm teaching my lessons, I teach about song form. I teach them about listening to phrases on the guitar so you don't get lost. A lot of drummers playing the same beat over and over in the outro of a tune, say it goes for 32 bars, well, they can't feel a 32 bar form and they get lost. If you're educated and you understand form of songs, that 32 bars is not going to be daunting, and you're going to know exactly what you're going to do. Be an overall well-rounded musician, not just a drummer. Be well-rounded. Well-rounded leads us to the second part. Learn many styles. Learn how to play outside of your comfort zone. One of the things that I learned how to play, despite originally being a rock drummer, was I learned how to play Afro-Cuban, Brazilian, Caribbean, and I learned how to play jazz, most importantly, and jazz fusion. All of those styles help me to be able to play better rock grooves. So I can be playing a straight ahead, boom, gat, boom, boom, gat, boom, gat, boom, boom, gat, straight ahead rock beat, but then all of a sudden I decide I'm going to take this out a little bit. So what do? I shift into an Afro-Cuban cymbal feel. So I might go to ding, 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 right? Maybe just a bar or two, but it's super cool to be able to pull these different things in and out of your performances. Now, you're not always going to want to do that. This is just a fun example. Obviously, you want to stay within the realm of what you are playing in terms of the genre. But maybe you're going to get a gig as an Afro-Cuban drummer. Well, you got to know how to play a naningo, and you have to know how to play a mambo and a cha-cha-cha, and you have to know how to play a samba if you're getting a Brazilian gig. So it's really good, and I highly recommend that you learn how to play outside of your comfort zone. Afro-Cuban and jazz changed my life, and I first got into that with a drum teacher back in the 80s by the name of Kevin Dempsey. He taught me how to play Brazilian, taught me how to play jazz. He hipped me to listening to jazz and understanding what was going on musically in jazz, and he educated me on so many different grooves in the Afro-Cuban world. So that when I auditioned and went to music school, I got in because I could play jazz, I could play Afro-Cuban, Brazilian, etc., etc. Odd times, much more different stuff than just a straight ahead rock beat. So, number one, educate yourself and learn how to play many, many styles. Okay, I want to thank you for joining me here today. This has been a very, very important video. I'm really proud of this video because these are tips that I think most intelligent musicians would agree with me. Now, I keep talking about drummers. This is for any musician. I should say this is bass players, vocalists, piano players, you name the instrument. This video is for anyone that wants to play music professionally. Now, I would really like to thank my latest subscribers that have subscribed to my channel. If you are leaving comments, and hopefully I can get to them and respond to them. And I want to thank you for leaving those comments because most people are pretty, loving in their comments, and I really, really appreciate that, and I enjoy responding to them. I also want to thank anyone that's been clicking on my Amazon affiliate links. It helps me out. Also, my Patreon. Join my Patreon. You're going to get so much cool stuff. It's going to be amazing. So, thank you very much for joining me here today. Like, subscribe, comment, and as always, keep drumming. See ya.